Hey guys, Ghazzy TV here with a Path of Exile 1 and 2 video, I guess, because I wanted to talk about Spectre and a little note about the Animate Guardian. The little differences between PoE 1 and 2, because PoE 2 has some really nice features when it comes to racing your Spectre. And I wanted to show you guys how to navigate through the complexity and idiocracy of doing this in PoE 1. So I'm going to show you a little quick rundown of how it works in PoE 2 first. You will first cut a bind Spectre skill gem, and then you basically go and kill some enemies. And when you click on the bind Spectre skill, you'll see the spirit cost and the minion, the unit name, and this goes for all of the available units. And then if you click on this one, Lost Man Brute, for example, with the ability, it will now bind my skill gem to become a Lost Man Brute. Now, what I also could do now is I can then summon one of these, and I can click on this little button here and get some information on his stats. Not always 100% accurate, but you can get some information on his stats in-game, all available for you. It'll tell you what you get for increasing the quality, more damage, and what this unit is doing, and I can rebind this. Now, if this minion dies, or if I want to have more of them, I just click this button, and that's how you do it. It's very straightforward, very simple. I can disenchant this gem to get it back to the base bind Spectre ability. So this is a very, very comfortable way of summoning Spectres in general, and this is PoE 2. We've all been very thrilled about this. However, in PoE 1, it's a little different. First and foremost, Spectre information. And let's put a Spectre skill gem in. Here's the Spectre skill gem. Basically tells me nothing. It just says that they have additional accuracy, which is not going to happen after the patch. Some more movement speed, and they have extra resistances. What level the Spectre's unit is based on the skill gem, and how many I can have. That's all the information you have. So how do you summon them then? So first and foremost, we use a Desecrate skill gem. And by using... Oh, there's spell echo in there. So by using Spectre skill gem, I will have what's referred to corpses that's on my Desecrate table. So the Desecrate has an effect where it spawns corpses on the ground, and the corpses will be random of enemies or units that you have summoned or have that exist in the area. Now, in my hideout, there are no such monsters. So the Spectres or corpses that shows up are corpses that I've had as Spectres, up to 10 different ones. So in my case, I see some Pale Seraphims, I see some Carnage Chieftains, and I think I saw an Arena Master there. Yeah, that's an Arena Master. As you can see, the name is up here. And the way you check that is to the game function settings. Thank you, J-Rock, for the tier 2 sub.
And again with another tier 2 sub. I guess we'll just have to keep this party rolling.
So in settings and on the game, you can see corpse targeting. This is normally set to A. So if I do this, I have to basically hold down A to see this. Now they don't show up here, but if I hold down the A key, now I see it up here. So I like to have that always enabled personally. This will only show up if you have a skill that does target corpses. So this allows me to see, well, I want an Arena Master. Saw one here earlier. I have to hover over it, make sure it says Arena Master, then click the Raise Spectre button on the Arena Master. And as you can see, I now have an Arena Master. It's a bit hard to see without MTXs, I guess, but that is an Arena Master. And that's how you summon one of them. It says I can have maximum of 3. So this is where it gets really tricky, because if you're using a build like I'll be league starting with Pure Spectres, we actually have Spell Echo as a support gem for the Spectre gem. So let's just move this in here, and I put the Spell Echo in, and let's say, hey, I'm going to want to have an Arena Master. So if I now summon the Arena Master once, see, I got 2 minions. I got 2 Arena Masters, actually. But if I only wanted 1, this is not good. So that means that before I summon my Spectres, to unsummon them, you just lift and resocket your Raise Spectre. So for me to make sure I don't get the incorrect minion, I have to first unsocket Spell Echo. Then I have to generate the corpse, see Arena Master, click my Raise Spectre once on that, and now I have 1 of them. I can have 3. So let's say I want 2 Pale Seraphims in this case. Now I have my Spectre army set, right? This means that after I summon them, then I can put the Spell Echo support back to them, and they will have Spell Echo supported. So it's a bit annoying, but make sure that when you do summon your Spectres, you take these away, the Spell Echo away before you summon them. Another thing to point out is Normally, minion builds uses a weapon that's called a trigger weapon. This is a benchcraft that we find in Act 9 Refinery, in a grate in the ground. You find it in the zone, you get the benchcraft, and the benchcraft is then showing up here. And in here, you can then craft that for 3 chaos. It's a suffix modifier, and this will trigger spells when you use a skill. Normally, we would have Desecrate in the trigger weapon, and we would also have Bone Offering linked after Desecrate, which means that every time I use an ability, it'll first cast the first skill, in this case Desecrate. Next time I use an ability, it uses my offering, which is consuming those corpses. And the next one in this build is an aura, so that doesn't get triggered. The next time I use it, it will use a Desecrate again. Next time again, we'll use the offering. Rinse, repeat with an 8-second cooldown. This is quite important because when you want to summon your Spectre, let's say I use an ability, now I have corpses. Let's say I want to summon that Pale Seraphim right there. If I right-click this now, it's going to trigger my offering. I didn't get my Spectre. It just blew up my corpses instead. This is a little bit annoying. First off, again, just a recap. Don't have Spell Echo linked to your Raise Spectre when you raise them. If you don't have enough mana, you might have to turn off some auras to get enough mana to cast it, but take off the Spell Echo. Don't have Desecrate in a trigger weapon. Don't have Bone Offering in a trigger weapon or any offering. Put your Desecrate in any other green sockets, like this one. I can now cast this freely as much as I want to. And then you cast the corpse out, and now I can use the Raise Spectre on the correct corpse that I want. Let's say the Arena Master again. And I get one of them. That's how you summon the specific one you want. Why this is important is because there's no way I'm going to find a corpse here, is there? There are itemized corpses, which is coming from Ritual Mechanic, or you can buy them on trade. Basically, you can find and purchase corpses that are very specific for certain units that do not show up when you desecrate something. We have found the tab. All right, so there's a bunch of different ones of these. So for example, Perfect Forest Warrior is a very commonly used Spectre. Guardian Turtle is also a very common one for most minion builds. The perfect version of this provides extra physical damage mitigation, gives you a determination aura. The Perfect Forest Warrior gives onslaught, for example. So these things are very, very, very common in many minion builds. So I'm going to show you what happens if you happen to have Desecrate in your trigger weapon and or just say the offering in your trigger weapon. So what would happen here is you right click the Guardian Turtle in this example. It creates the corpse on the ground. Now I've made sure that I don't have Spell Echo linked to my Raise Spectre. So when I right click this for my Raise Spectre, I will only get this one. But now I happen to have it offering in my trigger weapon. So I right-click this. It took another corpse on the ground, and my hard-earned Perfect Guardian Turtle was consumed by my offering skill. Poof! Like magic, it's gone. This is very frustrating. Now, luckily, with some of the changes coming in 3.27, Spectres are going to be a lot cheaper, or at least we're expecting them to be cheaper. I have wasted about 10 to 15 divines in this last league, and I would consider myself to be somewhat experienced with the game. I have played it a little bit over the past 12 years. You know, I dabble in Path of Exile, and I still make these mistakes every now and then. Now, imagine a new player coming into the game having no idea what the fuck they're doing. They might do this quite often. So I'm hoping this video will prevent some of you guys from doing this. Now, how do you prevent this? Remove the offering and Desecrate from your trigger weapon. You right-click the corpse, creates the corpse. Now, double check that you don't have Spell Echo, that you don't have shit in your trigger weapon that will fuck this up. Then you summon it, and voila. Now I have a Guardian Turtle Spectre, and I get the Determination Aura, and he's slow as shit. Let's say I want a second Spectre. I want a Forest Warrior. But let's say that you have your max number of Spectres summoned. Here's another way to think about this. Again, I have a maximum of 3 Spectres here, so I'll take a Pale Seraphim and an Arena Master. So what happens now is I have 1 Arena Master, 1 Pale Seraphim, and 1 Guardian Turtle. However, the order I summoned them in is the Guardian Turtle is now my oldest summoned Spectre. This means if I summon another Spectre above my caps, or going from 3 to 4, which I can't because the skill says 3, it will replace the oldest summoned unit. In this case, my hard-earned Guardian Turtle. So, how do you fix this problem? Well, to make sure I don't lose my Guardian Turtle when I'm going to add a Forest Warrior to my army, I want to replace the Pale Seraphim. What you do in this example is I will make sure, again, no spell echo. I've taken away the offering and my desecrate from my weapon. I make sure that I have nothing that's going to fuck this up. I will unsocket the Ray Spectre skill gem. That will turn these units into corpses on the field. Like this. You see, they're all turned into corpses. I am making sure I'm not going to consume them. To make sure I get the correct order now, I'm going to make sure that I want an Arena Master, a Guardian Turtle, and in this case, a Forest Warrior. That means that I'm going to summon the unit that I don't mind losing if I fuck shit up, which is the Arena Master, because that one I can desecrate. I will then summon the Arena Master. Now I'll take my Guardian Turtle, and now I'll right-click the Forest Warrior that creates that corpse, and I'll right-click that one. Now I have the correct Spectres that I want to play with. Now, some changes are happening on Friday with the launch of 3.27. So if they die, you're not going to lose them. They will turn into spirits. And when you go back to your hideout, they'll be coming back to life. So you don't have to worry about that. However, the reason I'm able to have 3 Spectres with a Ray Spectre skill gem is because it is level 25 or higher. In this case, 26. This is because the weapon, for example, in this example, gives me 2+ levels to it. My helmet gives me +2 levels to it. So if I were to unequip one of these items, my Spectre gem will go below level 25, and therefore I would only have 2 Spectres. This means if you change gear to make yourself not able to equip this, your minions will turn into corpses. So you know what to do if this happens. This is very annoying. This is why we praised the changes that were happening to Spectres in PoE 2. But I want to make sure this is a warning video for people coming into the PoE 1 that don't know this. So if I unequip this, I lost the Spectre. I lost the Pale Seraphim because I made sure that was my oldest Spectre, right? Now I only have 2 Spectres. If you accidentally do this, make sure you don't fuck shit up. So I'm again making sure spell echo is not there. I put the weapon back so I can have 3 Spectres. I make sure there's no triggering with offerings or desecrates. I find the corpse, I right click it, and I have the guy back. This is extremely frustrating if you happen to accidentally, oh, weapon swap. Oh shit, I weapon swapped and I lost a Spectre in the middle of a map. And you keep playing because there's enemies around you because your offering is automated. You might consume that hard-earned Spectre. So it's really frustrating. So make sure you don't do this, because this is not going to be saved with the new features that's happening with the Spectre coming back to life, because you just desummoned it. It didn't die. So that's how you make sure that you go through these processes of not fucking up your summoning of Spectres. It's very annoying. Once you've summoned everything, you can then put your spell echo back, you can put the offering back, you can put the desecrate back, and now you can play the game. But just be careful is basically what I'm trying to say here. Be very careful when it comes to summoning Spectres and how you operate around them, because the way they have this system set up in PoE 1 is extremely annoying. So normally I would change the keybind for weapon swap if I do this. When you have high enough levels, it's kind of whatever, but make sure you think about that. The level increments for Ray Spectre to get another level is level 13 for 2 Spectres, level 25 for 3 Spectres, and most of the Spectre, well, all Spectre builds will be taking this node for yet another one. There's some other things we can do as well, but that's something to think about when it comes to playing with Spectres in PoE 1. I think I covered everything in there, right? The other part is this gem, a skill right here, the Empower in this case, requires 76 strength. So if I were to, let's say, unequip a bunch of gear, let's see if I can do this. I can't disable that. Okay. But as you can see, if I do this, oops. Well, now I definitely fucked it up, but whatever. So I have 3 Spectres, and let's say I unequip this ring that gives me a ton of strength and dexterity. It's going to make me not able to use this chest because it requires 126 dexterity because of one of my support gems. So if I unequip this ring, my Awakened Chain will fuck it up and make me not able to use my chest. In this example, I have the Ray Spectre in my chest. So let's assume that I unequip my ring, and that's going to make my chest no longer be equipable, but that's where I have my Spectre. Look what happens to my Spectres if I do that. They turn into corpses immediately. So that's another thing when you're fiddling with your gear and whatnot. So this is why when it comes to playing Summoner in general in PoE 1, what I tend to do is when I'm fiddling with gear, I either make sure I keep track of it, or I literally just go to... I have a 1 Spectre summon, as you saw there. I go to a town where minions are not summoned. Come on, loading screen. In towns, my minions are no longer summoned. Now I can do this. I can say, well, I wanted to change position and put that ring there. As you see, it's red, so no longer able to equip it. And I put it back in. And then if I go back to my hideout now, my Spectres will still be there. So normally when it comes to the Spectre in this example. So when it comes to re-gearing and whatnot, when I'm playing with Spectres in PoE 1, I normally go to a town when I'm changing gear to not have to go through the pain and misery that can happen of accidentally triggering and destroying hard-earned Spectres that can sometimes cost a lot of currency depending on which one you're using. I almost forgot about the Animate Guardian. I'm sorry. So let me show you Animate Guardian. Same process. If I can find an Animate Guardian. Actually, I can just buy one. Let's see. I'm going to show you the process of Animate Guardian. Give me a red socket. Perfect. Do I have one on this character? Thank fuck. Okay. So here's an Animate Guardian. You use the Animate Guardian skill on the ground, and he will be summoned if he has gear. If he doesn't have gear, the way this guy works, I'm just going to take some items out. He can use a melee weapon. Oh, there's a socket in that one. He can use melee weapons, two-handed or one-handed, or two one-handers, or one-hander and a shield, body armor, helmet, gloves, and boots. That's the gear he can use. So here's a pair of boots. Here's a body armor. Here's a two-handed weapon. Here's a pair of gloves. Here's a helmet. That's an example. So you have to go to an area where you can throw these items out, which you cannot do in your hideout. So normally I go to Blood Aqueducts. And then what I do is, Blood Aqueduct is good because I can be in this area and there's no enemies. I toss the item out. I use the Animate Guardian on this item. He's currently wearing, that looks like Windscream or the Sun Clasp or something. So if I use the Animate Guardian on these boots, I can't because the level is too low. So this can only use it on lower item level here. My bad. There's an item level restriction on the level of the Animate Guardian. Normally you wouldn't use it till you're a little higher level, and that normally isn't the problem. But so I toss out the body armor. It's right there. As you can see, he's currently wearing a body armor called Gruthkul's Pelt. There's no way to tell, by the way. You only have the only thing you can look at is the actual 3D art, and I'm pretty sure that's a Gruthkul's Pelt. So the chest plate here. I use the Animate Guardian skill on this, and bam. He now is wearing that specific body armor. Let me unequip this because it's in the way. All right, here's a weapon. So he's currently not wearing any weapon, but if I use the Animate Guardian on his weapon, he's now wearing the staff. And if I were to use the skill on another weapon, he would replace the one he's wearing, and the one he's wearing is gone forever. You don't get this shit back. Here's a pair of boots, for example. Changing the boots. Now he has the seal greaves. Here's some fish scale gauntlets. Use those. He's now wearing this. He doesn't have a helmet. Let's give him a hat. There you go. That's your Animate Guardian. So basically, when you summon your Animate Guardian, my recommendation is to take this shit off your action bar. Because if you accidentally click this when you're doing a map, you're going to start replacing gear for him, and that's not something you want to do. Because normally we put specific unique items on the Animate Guardian to buff us and whatnot, and you are unable to check the stats and gear that this guy is having. There's no information about this in PoE 1 whatsoever. That's why we have Path of Building. So this is your Animate Guardian. I can see his HP. He has 9.3 thousand HP with this build right now. However, let's pretend he dies. You can unsummon him, or he can die in the fight. Now he's gone. You can then, without having Animate Guardian on your action bar, put the Animate Guardian back on your action bar, and then click on the ground to resummon him. Don't do this in a map, because if you accidentally replace, like you say you buy a Kingmaker that costs a handful of divines, really good weapon for Animate Guardians for high budget builds, and you accidentally hit a little shit-stained weapon on the ground, the Animate Guardian is just going to remove his Kingmaker and equip whatever it is you just clicked on. So if he dies, my recommendation is to go to your hideout, because in your hideout, you can have your minions summoned, but there's no items. So in your hideout, that's where I always resummon Animate Guardians to never have this mistake happen. No Animate Guardian, I click on the ground with Animate Guardian skill, and bam, he is back alive and ready to pump. Then I take the shit off my action bar immediately so I don't fuck it up. Anyways, I don't want to prolong this video too much. I just wanted to make a little warning video to show people the differences between PoE 1 and PoE 2 and how much better PoE 2 is at managing Spectres. But that's how it works, PoE 1. Stay safe out there, and hope you have fun with the League launch. And hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, stay safe, keep rocking.